The Whispering Well. There's an old well behind the abandoned chapel in Ashwood. Most of the town forgot about it, sealed behind iron gates and layers of ivy. But once a year, someone still finds it, or it finds them. Before we begin, take a deep breath. If you're enjoying these slow, haunting tales to fall asleep to, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more nightly mysteries. Now, let's begin. You've just moved to Ashwood for some quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't knock. No texts, no deadlines. The kind of quiet where no one knows your name. You rent a stone cottage near the edge of town, not far from the chapel ruins. The villagers don't mention the chapel when they greet you. Just a cautious nod, as if politeness is all they owe you. One of them slips though. An old man at the grocer's mutters, "Keep away from the well," before slipping your change into your palm with shaking fingers. You don't ask questions, not yet. The chapel sits on a hill cloaked in oak and pine. A short hike up a forgotten path takes you there. What's left of it? Broken beams, mossy pews, and a single rusted bell hanging like a crooked tooth. You see the well before you hear it. Circular, ancient, wrapped in thorns. Its stones are slick with moss, and the iron grate over its mouth looks newer, like someone replaced it not long ago. That night, you dream of dripping water and soft voices just beneath the surface. You can't make out the words. You wake up thirsty. Curiosity is a slow poison. You find yourself climbing back to the chapel. It's dusk. The air smells like smoke, but no one burns wood around here. You stand near the well and listen. A whisper curls through the grate. You tell yourself it's the wind, but the trees aren't moving. And the whisper knows your name. You back away. You don't remember giving anyone your name. The next morning, you find muddy footprints outside your cottage door. Small, bare footprints leading to your front step, then away, then back again. You try not to think of it as you make tea, but the kettle screams too loud, and when you reach to shut it off, you see a single wet handprint on the kitchen window. You go to town. You ask about the well. They change the subject. Every one of them. Eyes flit away. Smiles stiffen. A woman behind the bakery counter whispers, "Some things need forgetting." You don't forget. You can't. You bring a flashlight, thick gloves, and a crowbar the next time you hike to the well. The grate is rusted, but the bolts are new, clean, maintained. Someone's trying to keep something in or out. You pop the first bolt free, then the second. The whispers grow louder, still unintelligible, like underwater speech. But you swear they're pleading. The grate clatters open. It's darker than night inside. Your flashlight flickers As soon as you shine it down, nothing but wet stone for a few feet. Then, movement. Something pale, darting. You drop a stone in. It doesn't echo. Just a soft splash. Then silence. Too silent. You shouldn't hear your own heartbeat over that distance. You leave the grate open just to see. That night, no dreams. Just cold. So cold, you wake shivering, blankets soaked in sweat. The window's open. You didn't open it. On the sill is a single black stone, slick with moss. You start locking your door. Not that it matters. The townsfolk begin watching you, not with fear, with pity. You opened it. The grocer says one morning, not looking up. You can't close it now. You ask what he means. But he just rings you up. No charge. You stay inside. The trees scratch at your windows like fingernails. At night, you hear laughter from the hill. Children's laughter, but wrong. You board the windows. You check the locks twice. Still, the handprints appear. On mirrors, on the inside. You decide to leave Ashwood. You pack. You make it to the car. But the road is gone. Not overgrown. Gone. Replaced by forest. The map on your phone is blank. The hill watches. That night, you hear footsteps in your attic. You never notice a way up. There's a knock at the back door. Then, the front. You sit in the center of the living room, candle lit, crowbar in hand. Whispering begins. From the vents, the sockets. Your phone buzzes a voicemail. No number. You play it. It's your voice, whispering from the bottom of the well. The candle blows out. You wake in daylight. Your things are packed. The forest is still where the road was. The chapel bell tolls once. No wind, no clapper. You walk back to the well, drawn. You peer in. No grate, no echo. Just your reflection, and behind it someone else. You blink. They smile. They reach. You wake in your bed. Morning sun. Birds chirp. You're home, but there's no front door. Only the path up the hill. Only the well. Waiting. And now, when you speak, your voice echoes. Like you're always at the bottom of something. Before we continue, take a deep breath. If you're enjoying these slow, haunting tales to fall asleep to, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more nightly mysteries. Now, let's continue. The rain had been falling steadily all day. A slow, unrelenting drizzle that turned the narrow country roads into slick, black veins winding through the fields. Aaron adjusted the windshield wipers as he drove, eyes squinting at the dimming horizon. His GPS had lost signal miles ago, and the last road sign he passed was so rusted he couldn't make out the name. He was on his way to a job interview at a restoration firm But the detour through this forgotten part of the countryside had him second-guessing the opportunity. The forest crept closer on both sides of the road, trees leaning in as if whispering secrets to each other. Aaron tried the radio. Static. He glanced at his phone, no bars. With a sigh, he leaned forward, looking for any sign of civilization. That's when he saw it. A faded wooden sign barely visible through the mist. Black Hollow, Est, 1689. He turned down the narrow gravel path. The trees thickened almost immediately, forming a tunnel above him. The headlights cut through fog like knives, and his tires crunched the gravel with a sound that felt unnaturally loud. Aaron's gut told him to turn back, but curiosity pushed him forward. After all, the job was supposed to be near a historical estate. Maybe this was the place. The road opened into a clearing, and there it stood, an enormous, crumbling manor. Ivy wrapped around the columns like skeletal fingers. A wrought iron gate stood open. Aaron pulled up and parked, engine idling in the silence. He stepped out into the fog, the air thick and metallic, smelling of wet leaves and rust. As he approached the door, he noticed strange carvings in the stone runes or symbols he didn't recognize. They looked old, older than the building itself. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Still silence. Then the door creaked open on its own. Aaron hesitated. He should have been unnerved, but something about the place drew him in. The foyer was dark but clean, as if someone still cared for it. A grand staircase rose ahead, its steps draped in a dusty runner. Portraits lined the walls, stern-faced men and pale women with eyes that seemed to follow him. A chill moved through the air. "Hello," he called out. A voice, low and distant, answered, "Welcome." He froze. "I'm here for the interview," he said, unsure why he was pretending this was still a normal situation. "In the library," the voice replied. Aaron followed the sound through a hallway lined with bookshelves built into the walls. He pushed open the library door. The fireplace flickered with low flames. A single figure sat in a high-backed chair, facing away from him. "Mr. Elridge?" Aaron asked. The chair turned slowly. It wasn't Mr. Elridge. It was a woman dressed in a black Victorian gown. Her hair perfectly coiled, her skin unnaturally pale. Her eyes were cloudy white. Aaron stepped back. "I think I've made a mistake." "No," she whispered, rising from the chair. "You've come home." He turned to leave, but the door had vanished. Where there had been oak and brass, now there was only another bookshelf. Panic bloomed in his chest. "I just wanted a job," he muttered. The lights flickered. The fire went out. From the dark corners of the room, others began to emerge. Men in 18th century clothing. A child with no eyes. A maid whose hands were burned black. They stepped forward silently, one after another, until they formed a circle around him. "You've been chosen," the woman said again, "to join the caretakers." Aaron backed into the shelf, heart pounding. "Caretakers of what?" "Of memory," she said. "Of guilt." A shadow moved behind him. A cold hand touched his shoulder, and then he was somewhere else. A small, dim room. Stone walls. No door. A single wooden chair. A table with parchment and quill. Aaron sat. He didn't know why, but he wrote. His hand moved as if guided by another. Line after line of names. People he'd never met. Date, events, tragedies. Outside, he heard footsteps pacing, sometimes scratching at the walls, sometimes sobbing. Days passed, or maybe weeks. The ink never ran out. He heard whispers in the walls. They told stories of betrayal, murder, forgotten crimes. His own memories began to fade, replaced by those of the house. He couldn't remember his own face, or the road that brought him here. One day, the door opened. The woman in black returned. "It's time," she said. Aaron followed her without resistance. He no longer feared her. He feared the silence that followed when she left. She led him back to the library. The circle formed again. New faces. A new guest. "This is Aaron," she said. "He will show you where the walls breathe." He nodded. He understood now. He was the interview. He was the test, and the house had accepted him. The new guest stepped into the room, a woman with rain on her coat and terror in her eyes. Arun smiled. "Welcome," he said. "Before we continue, take a deep breath. If you're enjoying these slow, haunting tales to fall asleep to, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more nightly horrors. Now, let's continue." She always hated the silence of rural nights. In the city, noise was constant. But here, out in the deep green valleys of Aberlin, silence fell like a curtain at dusk. Heavy, still, final. When Ava accepted the offer to house it for her aunt, she thought it would be peaceful. A quiet week away from the chaos of life. Maybe even a break from the migraines that gnawed at her temples in the city. But by the second night, Ava began to feel it. The pressure, not in her head, but in the house. It was subtle. The kind of discomfort you can't quite explain without sounding irrational. The sense that something in the house was ... watching. She'd never been one for superstition. Ghost stories bored her. She rolled her eyes at horror films. Her rational mind didn't allow room for energy or entities. But then came the tapping. It started faintly, like fingernails on a wooden doorframe, just outside her bedroom, around 3 a.m. At first, she assumed it was an old pipe or a tree branch in the wind. But there were no trees near that side of the house, and the sound always came in threes. Tap, tap, tap. She got up once to check. Phone, flashlight in hand. Nothing. No open windows. No leaks. She returned to bed, convinced she was overthinking it. But every night it returned. Same hour. Same rhythm. By the fourth night, her nerves were beginning to fray. She hadn't slept properly since she arrived. And then, on the fifth night, it changed. She heard her name. It was a whisper, low, gravelly, drawn out like a breath through grit. Aviva. She bolted upright, eyes wide, chest pounding. The whisper echoed just outside her door. She didn't move. She didn't even breathe. She just stared at the door, waiting for the handle to turn. It didn't, but the whisper returned. This time, closer. Ava, come see me. She couldn't rationalize it. She didn't even try. She jumped from the bed, grabbed her car keys, and fled the house in bare feet. The night air slapped her face as she bolted for her car. The gravel cut into her soles, but she didn't care. She threw herself into the driver's seat, turned the ignition. Nothing. The car was dead, completely. No lights, no sound. And then, in the silence, she heard it again. Ava. It was coming from the rear seat. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. She simply opened the door and ran back toward the house. Because somehow, the house, no matter how haunted, was safer than what was in her car. She locked the door behind her, heart hammering like a jackhammer in her chest. And then she remembered. Her phone was on the nightstand. She crept upstairs, floorboards groaning under her weight. The air had shifted, thicker, colder. She reached out slowly, gently, nudging it open with trembling fingers. There, sitting on the bed, was a figure. Its back was to her, but the shape of it tall, skeletal, draped in something black, was unmistakable. She tried to scream. Nothing came out. The figure turned. Its face was wrong. Too long. No lips. Just rows of exposed teeth, as if the skin had been peeled back. Its eyes were hollow, but she felt them meet hers. Ava, it rasped. You came back. She slammed the door shut and stumbled backward down the stairs. Her mind was reeling. She didn't remember unlocking the front door. But somehow it was open now. Wind howled through the hallway. The lamps flickered violently. Every shadow in the house stretched, curved, twisted, like they were watching, breathing. She grabbed her aunt's landline. Dead, of course. Her only option now was to run. Somewhere, anywhere. But when she opened the door, the world outside had changed. The porch was gone. The gravel path, gone. Even the trees, it was just fog. Endless, dense, gray fog, like the house was suspended in a void. She stepped back, heart threatening to burst from her chest, and the door slammed shut behind her. She was trapped. The house groaned. The walls trembled. And somewhere, deep within, a chorus of whispers rose. They called her name over, Ava, Ava, Ava. She curled into a corner of the kitchen, hands over her ears, eyes shut tight. Then she heard a different voice, a woman, soft, familiar. Ava, darling, are you all right? She opened her eyes. Her aunt stood in the doorway, confused, holding a grocery bag. Sunlight poured through the windows. Birds chirped. Everything was normal. Ava blinked. She was in the kitchen, in daylight. No fog, no whispers, no monster. She stammered something about a dream. Her aunt chuckled and made tea. What followed her from that room? But that night, when she lay in bed again, she checked the closet, the attic, under the bed. All clear. And just as she was about to sleep, she heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, from inside the room. And this time, the voice was not a whisper. It was a scream. The year was 1847, and they buried children fast in Langmuir. Not because they died quickly, though they did, because the longer they waited, the more the bodies changed. Not in the way you'd expect. Not decomposition, not decay, but something else. Their joints would twist in the night. Their eyes would open weeks after death and stare upward. Once a body had screamed when the grave was half dug, but they buried it anyway. People stopped asking questions after that. Langmuir wasn't the kind of village that tolerated questions, tolerated sheep, cold winters, and quietness, but not questions. That's what made Eloise curious. She came from the city with a suitcase full of books and a head full of ideas. An anthropologist, she said, researching rural customs, temporary stay. The townsfolk nodded politely, gave her an old caretaker's cottage, and told her not to roam too far from the marked roads. Eloise thought they were being quaint, teases. She laughed to herself as she unpacked her lanterns, maps, and recording gear. But the first night, she heard it. A sound from the woods behind her cottage. A rhythmic thumping, followed by laughter. Not joyful laughter, not human even. Something was out there. She told herself it was foxes, badgers, maybe kids. But the next morning, she found handprints on her window. Small ones, child-sized, pressed hard into the glass, as if something had leaned in, staring at her while she slept. She wiped them clean, locked the shutters, and set out into the village. People watched her from windows, from behind fences. They didn't smile. She approached an older man stacking firewood and asked about the cemetery on the hill. He shook his head. "Don't go there." She smiled. "I'm researching burial traditions." He looked at her, eyes sharp. "Not ours, you're not." Back in the city, she would have taken notes, quoted him. Here, she just nodded. That night, the tapping returned. This time, at the back door. She turned on her lantern and moved slowly to the kitchen. Nothing outside. No wind, no animals. Just the tapping, even and slow. Like someone knocking with a single finger. She opened the door. No one. But lying on the step was a small shoe. Leather, handmade, child-sized. Inside, a name was stitched in red thread. Lottie. She didn't sleep that night. By morning, the shoe was gone. She marched into the village square, furious, convinced it was a prank. But when she mentioned the name Lot, the mood changed. An older woman clutched a rosary. A child began to cry. The baker muttered, "Don't speak her name. Don't invite her. Invite who?" But no one answered. That evening, Eloise sat down and wrote everything out, every detail, every warning. She planned to publish it later. But when she turned to place the notebook on the table, she noticed the fireplace had been lit. She hadn't lit it, and sitting in front of it, on the floor, was a small figure. Lottie. No eyes, just pits of shadow. A dress made of burlap and mud. And in her hand, the other shoe. Eloise froze. The girl tilted her head. "Why won't you play with me?" The voice didn't come from her mouth. It came from the walls, the floorboards, inside Eloise's head. "I can't," Eloise stammered. The girl rose, slowly, limbs bending too far, neck lolling to one side. "You invited me." The light blew out. When Eloise came to, she was in the cemetery, half buried, hands bound. Dirt in her mouth. The villagers were standing around, chanting something old, something in Latin. She couldn't scream, couldn't move, but her eyes were wide open. And across from her, standing at the foot of another grave, was Lottie, smiling, not a child's smile, a predator's. Her mouth opened wider, wider, until her jaw cracked. And she whispered, "You'll make a lovely sister." Before we descend into tonight's next nightmare, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps keep the lights on and the spirits slightly afraid of you. Now, close your eyes, breathe deep, and listen closely. This is the story of the abandoned ship that called itself home. The sea doesn't bury things, it keeps them. Sometimes it spits them back, half-eaten and full of secrets. Other times, it just waits. In 1913, A merchant vessel named the Afra went missing off the coast of Nova Scotia. There was no storm, no distress signal, no survivors. It was just gone. Until 12 years later, when it returned. No crew, no explanation, just drifting into harbor as if nothing had happened. The hull was intact. The sails were shredded, but usable. Inside, the crew's belongings remained untouched. Books still open, pipes still half full. They towed the ship ashore, examined it, cataloged everything. And then they made the worst possible decision. They sold it. The buyer was a Dutch explorer named Inselvas. He believed the ship was a miracle, a time capsule. He refitted the Afra, hired a new crew, and set sail for the Arctic. They never made it, but they did come back. 3 months later, the Afra was spotted near Greenland, unmanned, drifting toward the ice. Again, this time, something was different. The sails were wrong. Not just tornry woven, like someone had stitched them back together using human hair. The flags had changed too. Now, there was a new symbol stitched into the mainmast, a spiral made of teeth. Authorities refused to board it. They set it aflame from a distance. The Afra burned for 3 days. Black smoke, no smell, just silence. Then came the radio calls, scratchy, garbled, from somewhere in the North Atlantic. We are the crew of the Afra. We are not dead, but we are not ... right. They repeated every night. Same time, same frequency. No one knew how. The ship had no working equipment, no power. But the calls came. Always the same words. Always the same voice. Years passed. The frequency was eventually banned. The ocean grew quiet again until 1974. A Soviet trawler picked up a distress signal in the Barents Sea. They followed it and found her, the Afra hull, gleaming, untouched by time. This time, a boarding crew went in. Only 2 came back. They were blind, bleeding from the ears, speaking in languages they'd never learned. The Soviets quarantined them. Their last recorded words were, "Don't look at the walls. They see you back." From then on, the Afra was an international secret. Satellite images were edited, coordinates erased. The ship became a myth, a ghost story for sailors, but it kept moving. It was spotted off the coast of Morocco in '89, near Tasmania in '93. Always empty, always immaculate, always calling out. Then, in 2007, a YouTube video surfaced. A group of amateur explorers claimed they had found the Afra near Bermuda. They uploaded shaky footage of the deck, the strange spiral, the teeth. The video ends with someone screaming. The uploader's channel went dark. The Afra had returned. It had found the internet. Now, its signal is digital, encoded in corrupted videos, lurking behind silent thumbnails, whispers in the static between frames. Some say, if you watch too long, the spiral appears, not just on screen, but in your dreams. You'll wake up feeling the sway of a ship, salt in your lungs, ropes tightening around your wrists, and somewhere in the distance, a voice saying, "We are not dead, but we are not right." So if you ever see a video titled Afra Returns, don't click, because watching is inviting. And once you invite it in, the sea will keep you too.